be honest, I wasn't sure if this church service was going to happen until around noon yesterday. Every other time that I've been standing here, I've been ready for weeks, fine-tuning my message, practicing my delivery, perfecting a song, and doing everything I can to make a meaningful worship experience for everyone in this beautiful little country church. Yesterday at noon, I was staring at a blank piece of paper, rereading today's readings from Job and Mark, and trying to put all the pieces together. I was staring out the window, watching the leaves fall every time the wind blew, listening to a train whistle somewhere in the distance. As you can tell, Sheena had voice in the house. And I was trying to open myself to God, to truly dial in to hear what He was saying. But unfortunately, all I was getting was static. I was getting static thinking about all of the other things that I had to do, my day-to-day worries, and I was questioning myself. Why am I standing up here? I have been living in my new home for 3 months now, and I haven't found a church yet. I've had too much static in my life. Who am I to be speaking these words to you? What can I bring to this congregation? And in all honesty, today's readings from the lectionary didn't help. In all honesty, again, I don't really understand the book of Job. I've read it, and I'm confused. For a quick retelling of the story, Job is a wealthy man living in the land of Uz with his large family and his extensive flock. He is blameless and upright, always careful to avoid doing evil. And one day, Satan appears to God in heaven, and God boasts to Satan about Job's goodness. But Satan argues that Job is only good because God has blessed him abundantly. Satan challenges God that if given permission to punish the man, Job will turn and he will curse God. God allows Satan to torment Job to test his bold claim, but forbids Satan to take Job's life. In the course of one day, Job receives 4 messages, each bearing separate news that his livestock, his servants, and his 10 children have all died due to marauding invaders or natural catastrophes. Job tears his clothes, shaves his head in mourning, but he still blesses God in his prayers. Satan appears in heaven again. God grants him another chance to test Job. This time, Job is afflicted with horrible skin sores. His wife encourages him to curse God, give up and die. Job refuses, struggling to accept his circumstances. And eventually God rewards Job for his patience and makes him prosperous again. Now I know a couple of the traditional interpretations of the book of Job. Some scholars contend that the purpose is to explain why bad things happen to good people. These scholars will say that the book of Job says that God allows pain for a reason, but He won't necessarily reveal those reasons. He allows pain and suffering, but we as mortals can never truly understand God's plan. God spends 3 chapters at the end of the book basically telling Job that he can never understand God's reasons for things. He starts chapter 38 by asking Job, "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched a measuring line across it? On what? Where its footage set? Who laid its cornerstone while the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy?" And God continues along those lines for 3 full chapters, until in the final chapter of the book, Job accepts that he's not supposed to understand God's will. And he says to God, "Surely I spoke of things I didn't understand, things too wonderful for me to know. My ears have heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes." Another of the traditional explanations of the book of Job is that the book is all about tests of faith. And boy, was Job tested. Peter tells us in 1 Peter that the testing of your faith is more precious than gold, which is perishable, though tested by fire, may be found to the praise and glory and honor in the revelation of Jesus Christ. We all know that God tests the faith of His saints. Such testing, when successful, strengthens our faith by working patience in us. I struggle with both of these traditional interpretations for a couple of reasons. I think it is natural for us as people to want more answers than the book of Job provides. We want to know the reason for suffering, and we want more than the answer that Job provides, that God is more powerful than us and has a plan. We also want more than the fact that tests of faith make us stronger and help us to grow as Christians. But in today's Old Testament reading, I think we can relate to Job. And as I was staring out the window yesterday, I was relating to him. Job literally couldn't find God. But if I go east, he is not there. If I go west, I do not find him. When he is at work in the north, I don't see him. When he turns to the south, I catch no glimpse of him. This is the comfort that I find in the book of Job. We know that what makes us Christians is our faith, our belief that God is with us, that he is all-knowing, and that we cannot understand his will. But we still wish that we could see him. We wish that we could ask him questions. And we wish that it was literally easier to find God. So what if we were blessed enough to have the Lord with us? And what if we were able to ask him questions, face to face? How wonderful would that be? But then comes the uncomfortable question. What if he gave us an answer we didn't like? And I really think that's what happened in the reading from Mark. Imagine you were the man who ran up to Jesus in today's reading. You had led a good life. You had followed the commandments. You were successful in your life. You had amassed wealth and respect from those around you, yet you had treated them fairly. And then Jesus tells you, go sell everything you have and give it to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me. This call for a single focused piety, this call to give away everything and follow Jesus, this is not what the man expects to hear. He thought he was doing everything he had to do. When we are looking for God, we have to be prepared for the answers when we find him. This call to give up everything and follow Jesus is another one of those passages that I struggle with. Maybe I am too literal. Maybe I take give up everything and follow Jesus as give up everything and follow Jesus. I can't do that. Can you? We all have commitments and attachments to our everyday lives that we simply can't give up. And this feels impossible. This call to give up everything and follow Jesus was a radical change. And it reminds me of an analogy that I heard recently. I don't know if analogy is the right word. It might be more of a parable. A man was walking along a river one day, and he saw a baby floating down the river. So like all of us would, he called for help, he jumped in the river, and he brought the baby to safety. Then he saw another, and then another, and then another. He and the other people who arrived to help continued to jump into the river, pulling them out one at a time, saving all of the babies. Until finally, one of the rescuers decided to run up the river and to try to find out what was going on upriver and how babies were getting into the water in the first place. And this is what Jesus did. He not only pulled the babies out of the water by selecting his disciples, but he went upstream to look at what was causing the problems of the world in the first place. He saw that greed and iniquity were the cause of so much of the suffering in the world, and that he needed to find some way to eliminate that cause. But that sounds hard. This isn't what we want to hear. Even Jesus' disciples are thrown for a loop when he says that you have to give away everything. And this goes back to the reading from Mark again. Jesus looked around and said to his disciples, how hard it is for the rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. The disciples were amazed at his words. But Jesus said again, children, how hard it is to enter the kingdom of heaven. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. The disciples were even more amazed and said to each other, who then can be saved? And Jesus looked at them and said, with man this is impossible, but not with God. All things are possible with God. And it is this last line that provides us with hope. We may sometimes struggle to hear God, and when we do hear him speaking, we sometimes don't like what he is saying. But we must remember that with God, all things are possible. We must rejoice in the glorious reality, but we must never expect God to use his power to do our every bit. He is sovereign over our salvation, our future, our careers, and our every breath. All things are possible for him, and he uses that ability to accomplish his own will. Yes, it is frustrating when we don't know what God's will is. We want the assurance that we will succeed in everything that we do. We wish that through God all things were possible for us. But that would be a disaster. I don't know what's best for me, but God does. We must trust him to accomplish his will for our lives. And we can be confident that he will do exactly that, because with God, all things